Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about HubSpot. If you're hustling in the trenches to build a business or bootstrapping one of your own, let's talk about an AI-powered tool that can lighten up your workload a bit. HubSpot's Campaign Assistant is a game changer for creating marketing campaigns at scale. It quickly turns your key selling points into a cohesive pitch, which helps you deliver knockout emails, ads, and landing pages in minutes. So let Campaign Assistant take care of the campaigns so you can get back to growing your business. Work smarter, not harder at HubSpot.com/campaign-assistant. Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, December 14th. I'm John Weigell here with Ben Berkley, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Loneliness and isolation can lead to many adverse effects on your health. But what's the answer to this issue? It's robots, of course. We'll talk about ElliQ, a robot companion built by Intuition Robotics to help you with daily tasks and to maybe, just maybe, fix your loneliness. Before we break down all that, though, let's be your helpful humanoid friends and give you some of the biggest headlines today across business and tech. Kicking us off with Netflix, their first engagement report ever revealed that its most watched show from January to June 2023 was The Night Agent Season 1. Netflix will now release this report every 6 months, and I'm excited to see how One Piece ranks in the next one that they release. Ben, is there anything from this report that you noticed particularly?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, one thing that we just have to talk about is after years of resisting putting out any sort of numbers from their shows, they just released this as an Excel doc. Like anytime someone just like gives you something like an official does like an official report, and it's just like, here's a Microsoft Excel file, enjoy. I love that. It just shows they didn't want to put the effort into doing anything bigger with it. And honestly, that's fine because we got everything we need to know, which for me was just like, I never finished The Night Agent, and that was like number one by a lot. Like it had a lead of about 400 million watch hours on like a phenomenon like Wednesday, which like that's how huge it was. And I'm a fan of like a good conspiracy thriller. So I feel like we're going to get a lot more greenlit now, which is great. That said, never finished Night Agent. Wasn't really for me. Congrats to everyone who just like got through it though. Apparently there's a lot of people.
I guess you should get back to it then, maybe. I actually never heard of the show before I saw this list. I saw it was the top, and I immediately was like, I thought it was, international and not an American show because I had no idea that it ever existed. But now, maybe I'll go check it out. Moving over to Japan, Japanese fashion retailer Uniqlo is set to open 20 new locations across the United States and Canada in 2024, with the goal of 200 North American stores by 2027, and it currently stands at 72 stores. I see these all over. I mean, maybe because I live in New York, they're legitimately everywhere, so I can't imagine there being even more of them, but I mean, maybe they're coming to some other places in the U.S. that they wouldn't typically be. So I don't know. Arkansas, the Climatech,
they're great
in those very notorious Little Rock, Arkansas winters. Oh yeah, toasty.
Yeah, bring it on. Let's do it.
Next up, we're talking about Tesla. Tesla is recalling more than 2 million vehicles, nearly all of its United States cars, to update software and limit the use of the autopilot feature. The update will give Tesla drivers more reminder notifications when the auto steer function is turned on, ensuring their attention level. I thankfully haven't yet driven a Tesla. I'm actually set to drive a Tesla next week for the first time as I'm renting it, and maybe it's one of the cars that's recalled. So hopefully they just give me a RAV4 or something like that.
Here's hoping. It's also like, it's really hard to call this good news for Tesla. Recalling 2 million vehicles is a pretty brutal headline. However, it will distract from their like social media nightmare where I just continually see looping videos of like a Cybertruck struggling to get up a hill. So now we'll just be talking about the recall rather than that. So yay, I guess, if you're a Tesla investor.
Yeah, it's got to be crazy to, I'm sure like some of our listeners drive Teslas and your car is probably getting recalled, possibly. So maybe just look into that this week. Next up, the New York Times created a new newsroom position this week. It's the editorial director of Artificial Intelligence Initiatives. Fancy that. Zach Seward, founding editor of Quartz, will be the first to tackle how AI will play a role for the publication going forward. Next up, back to TikTok. TikTok just became the first non-game mobile app to generate $10 billion in consumer spending. The bulk of the spending comes from app users purchasing coins, which are used to buy gifts for creators on the app. This notoriously goes with the AI TikTok lives that we've been seeing across the board of creators or personalities going on there and asking for coins or bits or, I guess, little cakes and fruits for doing various random prompted AI tasks at the camera. So not surprised that they've generated this money this year, but I'm sure a lot more will be generated as they've been investing so much. And lastly, Ikea has unleashed a Swedish meatball like no other. Their new turkey-sized Christmas meatball was unleashed on their UK Instagram account page. Ikea UK is giving away 30 of these gargantuan meatballs and 30 veggie ball Christmas trees, whatever those are, all to winners of its Instagram contest. If you want to be one of the lucky 60 recipients, go check that out, I guess. Ben, what is your opinion on the turkey-sized Swedish meatballs by Ikea?
Well, it's not good. I mean, I want to clarify, I love a good marketing stunt, and like, you know, all the like Doritos liquor content that like from earlier this week, like anything I can find on that, I'm still like, give me more. Why not? Let's do it. This one I just can't get on board with. Is something we were talking about prior to the show, is like, how do you cook something like this all the way through? I just feel like this is about the size of a basketball, it appears, or like somewhere near there. What's the inside of that going to look like in reality? Like they keep saying, you know, you see this thing at first and you're like, oh, that's just like a funny little stunt. Then you actually think, oh, we're giving these meatballs to people. We are going to see the saddest cause of death ever, which is like trichinosis from eating the raw meat inside of a novelty IKEA meatball. And like, God rest their soul.
I feel like they're going to look like those cross sections of the Earth diagrams, like those 3D ones where it's all like blue on the outside and it's just red and orange and yellow on the inside for the core. But I'm assuming that they will send, just like regular IKEA meatballs, I'm assuming that they would cook these before sending them. So maybe you just got to heat them up. But like, but still, how are they going to cook them? Like, what are they going to do? Like IKEA, they got ovens, you know, but how many and how big?
I'm hoping we get a follow-up headline that IKEA has been secretly hiring away every scientist known to man. And like, they've just been trying to figure out how to cook this full basketball-sized meatball.
Yes. I'm looking forward to be at a booth at the next World's Fair, probably.
I'll be there. I'm in.
Okay, now on to our main story of the day. We talked about it a bit up top, but robots seem to be falling under the periphery as a cure for loneliness, or a potential cure for loneliness in humans, in addition to being helpers and reminders to us all in our daily lives. Ben, what's the story here about robots and loneliness?
Well, let's start with loneliness, which is not as an exciting sentence to say, but we're going to do it anyway. Let's keep in mind that in the US, more than half of adults report feeling isolated. They have they're like, this loneliness epidemic is very severe. It is a huge issue. There are a lot of different, attempts at trying to put a dent in this. Like, it's something that even has a major health impact. I think the latest estimate had said that loneliness itself costs Medicare, like through all its various, kind of increased risk of heart disease and stroke and dementia, all these different things that it does. It costs Medicare an estimated $6.7 billion a year. So this is a huge issue. It is something that we should continue to throw the kitchen sink at. In this story, the kitchen sink takes the form of a little companion robot that looks kind of Pixar-y. It's kind of got this like little light up head that swivels and talks. And there is a really interesting pilot program that has taken place in New York, where the state's Office for the Aging partnered with this robotics company, Intuition, that you mentioned at the top of the show. and they were looking to give away 800 of these robots to seniors who are often kind of at the forefront of this loneliness epidemic. Would you guess that went well, not so well? What's your gut?
Honestly, my gut would be that it went pretty well. I actually did some reading on this quite a while ago. There's a book called Alone Together. I believe the author is Sherry Turkle. And there's a section in that book where they give seniors a pet robot, but it's more so kind of on the lines of a pet, like a little seal or a very, very small animal that's also a robot for companionship. And it seemed to prove very well for them health-wise and kept them happy, kept them healthy, and kept them feeling good. So my initial reaction to this is actually quite positive, surprisingly.
I mean, I think on the surface, very correct. From this New York State initiative, the study that came out after showed about 96% of the seniors who were said it was helpful at reducing their loneliness. Then it falls off a little bit of a cliff when you really dig into this a little bit more. Having a companionate relationship with ElliQ, for one, they set out to have 800 devices. They still have about 150 of them available. So even just getting people to adopt this test seems like it's a little bit of a challenge. And then despite kind of giving it, an overall passing score on its helpfulness, there are a lot of complaints. I think there were some seniors who were saying ElliQ is rude, thought it was too intrusive, felt that they become too dependent on it, and which actually makes a lot of sense when a lot of the function of this is providing reminders and, can kind of be your way of connecting to a phone call with your family is going to be ElliQ's going to say, let's do this thing. There is a lot of, behavior that you become reliant on this thing after long to do. There was one person who also said that they were so annoyed by ElliQ that they were considering attacking it with an axe. So, again, it went overall well, and it does have a lot of signals that it could really work well. I think it's just something that will need to be refined a lot, and ideally just kept away from axe-wielding seniors.
Yes. All right. That is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We are a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Ezra Tripriano, and our executive producer is Darren Clarke. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email. We will see you tomorrow. Let me tell you about a show that I've been loving lately. It's called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by the incredible John Lee Dumas. It's available now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. I'm a big fan of this podcast. It has energy, it has value, and it's all about learning about entrepreneurship. I was just listening to an episode the other day. JLD interviewed Jay Rogers, who was such a wealth of information. He kind of went into how entrepreneurship chooses you. You don't necessarily choose it, and that failure only happens when you stop trying to win. A lot of gems in this one. So I'd highly recommend checking out that particular episode along with the rest. So go listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts. Hey guys, if you listen to the Hustle Daily Show on Google Podcasts, we want to let you know that the option will no longer be available pretty soon. Google is sunsetting its podcast app sometime in early 2024 in favor of YouTube Music, and we want to give you a heads up before it's too late, since that time's almost here. The Hustle Daily Show is available everywhere and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're using YouTube Music, we are there as well. If you're an Android fan, there are plenty of apps like Overcast, Pocket Casts, Player FM, and more. So just search for us wherever you decide to listen to your favorite podcasts.